Hello, I'm Professor Ellis, and I want to welcome you to this lesson on stakeholder theory. A stakeholder is any person or group who can affect or be affected by the actions of a company. These are the individuals and constituencies that contribute voluntarily or involuntarily to a company's wealth, creating capacity and activities. They are also the potential beneficiaries or risk bearers of these activities. Stakeholders are vital to the survival and success of the corporation. Each company has an orientation to stakeholder engagement as represented by the stakeholder engagement model. There are 4 different types of orientation. 1, companies can be inactive. They can ignore stakeholder concerns. They can ignore the stakeholders completely. 2, companies can be reactive. They only act when they're forced to do so. 3, companies can be proactive. They attempt to anticipate stakeholder concerns. And 4, they can be interactive, which means they engage with stakeholders on an ongoing basis with respect, openness, and trust. For the most part, corporations should have a proactive or interactive orientation. To achieve that, every manager in the organization must engage in stakeholder analysis. In a stakeholder analysis, we ask the following questions. Who are the relevant stakeholders? What are their interests? What power do they have? Voting, economic, political, legal, or informational? What is the legitimacy of each? And what is the urgency of each? Now, let me explain power, legitimacy, and urgency in more detail. Legitimacy refers to the perceived validity of the stakeholder's claim to a stake. Power refers to the ability or capacity of a stakeholder to produce an effect. And urgency refers to the degree to which the stakeholder's claim demands immediate attention. Here are 3 different stakeholder groups: employees of a Lego store, institutional investors, and a group of protesters in Elliott Bay. They have different kinds of characteristics, but I'm going to identify one for each. First, employees have legitimate power. They are seen to have a valid interest in what the company does. Institutional investors, like Tia Kreff as pictured here, have power. Because they hold a large voting bloc, they're able to encourage, if not force, a company to deal with their claims. And finally, we have some protesters. These protesters don't really have a legitimate claim, some would say, but they do have an urgent claim. This is a blockade against Shell, and if Shell is going to continue their work in Elliott Bay, they have to deal with these stakeholders. They can't put it off. To keep track of this, we can complete a stakeholder matrix. With this, we are going to record stakeholder characteristics. I have here an example of a local developer who wants an exemption to building height regulations. Some of the stakeholder groups might be employees of the developer who are interested in their job and income, local officials who are interested in fairness. If they give an exemption to this developer, will they have to give it to others? They're also interested in how the local look is preserved, as well as what their constituents think of the development. Neighbors are interested in the view that might be blocked from this higher building, increased traffic, increased crime, safety, or the inconvenience of construction. The community at large is likely to have those same concerns. And another group will be the suppliers of the developer, the people who sell concrete, appliances, any kinds of things that you need in constructing a building. They want a reliable customer who will buy as much as possible and contribute as much to their bottom line as possible. So once we have identified all the stakeholders here and all of their needs here, we can go through and say, do they have legitimacy, power, or urgency? Employees definitely have legitimacy. They have moderate power and urgency. Local officials have high across the board. Neighbors, high legitimacy, low to moderate urgency, but very low power. The same is true for the community at large. Suppliers, they have legitimacy and they have power because they set the prices, but they don't really have any urgency. Once you've completed this matrix, you can see how the different stakeholders might form coalitions. Neighbors and the community at large, in this scenario, form a natural coalition. You can see where there might be some conflicts and start to develop a plan to balance the different stakeholders' interests and to prioritize the different stakeholders. As much as you try, you can't always give all stakeholders what they are interested in or what they are claiming to have. I've left this slide blank. We're going to talk about this in class. So before class, I'd like you to consider what you as a manager would be able to do to manage relationships with your shareholders and your stakeholders. Be prepared to talk about that in class. Thank you.